everyone, my name is Luna and I'm here to catch you up on everything that happened and break down all the juicy lore from episode 109 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, A Test of Fate. Just one video this week as I'm off to PAX Australia, so I'm jamming the recap and the breakdown into one. Let's get stuck in. We pick up in the morning at Ligament Manor. Snuggled outside with Gloamglut, Fern and Ashton talk about what they're going to do after everything on Ruidus is finished, and Ashton says that they'd like to come back here to Ligament Manor, which Fern is very happy about. Ashton says he didn't think he'd live this long, and it's strange now that they're going to try and save, the lives of everyone. Gloamglut wakes up and gives a big stretch, and Fern tells him he can leave or stay, he can make his own choice. But if he'll allow it, she'd like to be able to reach out to him. So he lets out a particular sound, a coughing bark, which Fern attempts to mimic, saying that she'll practice. She also takes off a lower frill from her dress and ties it around his arm like a friendship bracelet. Gloamglut seems unsure about leaving and seems to be waiting for permission.
You don't have to stay.
That's your best dragon one.
You can do whatever you want.
We'll see you later. Yeah.
Go spread your legs. Get out there. Just go show the world who you are.
Gloamglut takes off, leaving Ashton and Fern alone. I love the idea of them finding Gloamglut later in the campaign, or him flying through the realms to aid Fern in the final battle. Maybe in the epilogue we'll see Gloamglut settle down with another strange and terrifying Fey dragon, start a little terrifying Fey dragon family. Inside Ligament Manor, the Callaways have set out a big breakfast feast, and Nana Mori is enjoying a bowl of skittering creatures and listening to some jovial music. Fern and Ashton meet the others inside, with Breus arriving a little bow-legged after his late-night visit to Nana Mori. Lorna says that they could hear everything that happened between the two of them, and that it was quite loud, and Chetney agrees, saying that he felt jealous and tried to join in.
I got poked in the eye. I wasn't sure with what.
Imogen thanks Nana again for her help, but Nana says she has taken a tally of the favours she has done for them. So Chetney says, not to worry, we'll be going back to Ruidus soon, and we could bring you more goodies from the surface. Travis then rolls to see if Chetney lives through the night.
Please. This is all I want.
No, it's dude.
Whoa, one of those is a 0. We're fine, and then... So you. It makes me so happy.
Blame stresses me out.
This scene is very funny to me in the context of them meeting the Keeper of Death later in this episode. Lorna asks Nana Mori what she knows about the Matron of Ravens, and if the two have a relationship, being that they both pull on the threads of fate. Nana calls the matron a fickle bitch and says that the two have a rivalry. Apparently the matron would consider Nana a pest for interfering in her domain. Fern asks Nana what she thinks about the gods, and she says she doesn't really pay them much mind here in her own domain. Chetney speculates about whether or not magic, which was a gift from the Archheart, one of the gods, would disappear if the gods left or died. But Nana says that in her opinion, magic was always available to mortals and the Archheart just showed them the way, just in the same way as the ley lines and some aspects of the Fae were around before the gods arrived to Exandria and claimed ownership. It's interesting that this idea is reflected later in the episode when the matron speaks of Exandria returning to its natural cycle without the gods. We'll talk a bit more about that later in the video. As the group gets ready to depart, Fern's parents, Bertie and Ollie, come in from the kitchen. They say their goodbyes and they express again their hope that they can get to know Fern more when she gets back, a sentiment which Fern echoes. Meanwhile, Orm has been examining the Sorrow Lord's blade and asks Fern if she wants to keep it or if she wants to leave it here with the Sorrow Lord. She casts Identify, learning it is called Duskhunger, and it is a +2 longsword, and can be wreathed in flame as a bonus action and has the ability to cast Blindness. The group discuss what to do with it, deciding to keep it so that they can siphon its power with the magical harness. They then make a list of all their magical items that they've sort of been stocking up and saving to siphon, because they can only siphon 1 per day without running any risk of the harness breaking, and so they need to start doing that soon or they're going to run out of time. They start with the Harp of Valor, peer pressuring Dorian into taking it.
Eat the harp.
Eat the harp.
Eat the harp.
Eat the harp.
I'm feeling
Eat the harp. Eat the harp.
I fold under peer pressure immediately.
The harness begins to light up and Chetney holds the harp against it until it crumbles into itself as its power is channeled into Dorian. Dorian gets a +5 maximum hit points, advantage on attack rolls, saving throws and ability checks until his next long rest, and a permanent advantage on performance checks. I really hope they remember to start siphoning stuff because those are some pretty cool boosts and I'm so keen to see what the other magic items do. They depart from Ligament Manor with Nana Mori opening a portal for them. She gives Fern one last bit of advice before she leaves, to follow her whims and impulses. Breas says that he'll call Nana, and she replies that he knows where to find her. They step through the portal onto the streets of Vasselheim, which are tense and busy, filled with soldiers and military presence preparing for the assault on the Malleus Key. They decide first to go to the Raven's Crest, the Matron of Raven's temple, which is located in the Dusk Meadow. They enter the temple through tall, dark glass doors and start climbing up some stairs into the temple, seeing no priests or attendants around. They reach a door with a heavy stone knocker, which Laudna, with Ashton's assistance, knocks. The door swings open, and beyond is a 100-foot tall chamber with every wall covered in stained glass windows and hundreds of candles. Standing at the end of the room are 3 figures who make up the Coven of the Veil. One of them steps forward and addresses Bells Hells.
Welcome to Raven's Crest. We are the Coven of the Veil, the High Priestesses of the Matron, and the highest of the Trust of Winter. I am Leotel.
Leotel is another of Liam O'Brien's characters connected to the Matron. He played her first in the one-shot The Search for Grog.
A woman with deep, dark, brown, almost black hair, and a very polished, fine black breastplate, a coif of feathers at her neck, all dark robes, and 5 gleaming stars around her neck. The Raven's Crest and the Trust of Winter would be proud to aid you in this. We have felt that the Matron's chosen has departed this plane. We know how painful this must be for you now. We wish to offer our service, my service, as thanks for saving Vasselheim, the temple, all of us really. It would be my great honor.
That was the same one-shot that Bertrand Bell was introduced in, and the two shared a romantic connection, leading to Bertrand whispering her name upon his final moments in episode 3. Imogen explains that they need to speak with the Matron, and Leotel says to commune with her, they need to take a leap of faith. She stands to the side to reveal a wide pool of blood, stating they need to sink into the blood and release. This is an experience that we have been lucky enough to see animated when Vax undertook this rite. I've always loved this idea that the only way to truly commune with the goddess of death is to die, and it makes me wonder how many times the matron in her mortal form may have died to commune with the original god of death, as she spoke about later in the episode. So, one by one, they all step into the pool of blood, some more enthusiastically than others. Dorian uses Unending Breath, which is a air genasi feature, but he realizes that he will need to let it go and, actually drown if he wants to be a part of this experience. They all drown in the pool of blood and find themselves in the matron's domain, a vast expanse of red blood with a black sky filled with golden threads and the masked face of the matron huge above them. She asks why they have sought her, and Laudna says that they heard from the Archheart that she wanted to speak with them, and that they want to corroborate what the Archheart said, particularly about how the Archheart and herself want to leave Exandria.
So you say the Archheart is the dissident among us?
For a moment, there is a real fear that they have outed the Archheart, but Laudna doubles down, saying that she thought they were both on the same page. The matron swells in sighs, saying that these are unfounded accusations. Breya says they just want answers on what to do since they're getting different commands from different places, and Oren backs this up, saying that they are just trying to understand so that they can help the gods. The matron responds that she is but a steward of death, but she can look on the threads of fate and see their stories. She recognizes Fern in this moment as the granddaughter of that pest, Nana Mori. The matron announces that they have the confidence and banality of all mortals, and dismisses them.
And heed my words. Go home.
And do what?
No. Shadow.
Go home.
Many of the group express their frustration, and Ashton says that they know the matron isn't done playing God since she is the one who convinced the Archheart to not give up. Orem also says that they don't seek to escape death, but they want a chance to live before they die. The matron calls them scared and aimless, but Orem pushes back, saying that she is supposed to understand since she has a foot on each side of divinity and mortality. The matron shows them a vision of Liliana and Opal and
Vespin Chloris, he who foolishly tried to write history himself in the shards of my path, becoming the first catalyst to inevitable calamity, damning himself to an eternity in the hells, and damning many others in the process.
calling them all pawns in the threads of fate who ultimately did not have the strength to refuse the call of power. Now, I imagine most people watching Campaign 3 know who Opal is, but in case you skipped the EXU interlude, I'll give you a quick fill-in. Opal was Amy Carrera's character in Exandria Unlimited, and in that series, she, in a hope that it would help during a big battle, put on the Circlet of Barbed Vision, a vestige of Lolth the Spider Queen. She later attempted to remove it, but was unable to as it had fused to her head. During the events of the Apogee Solstice, Lolth began to influence Opal more and more, eventually demanding that she serve as her champion in the upcoming fight against Predathos. Opal was forced to leave her friends, but Fira Rai, Anjali Bhamani's character, convinced Lolth to let her accompany her. Now, the other figure, Vespin Chloris, is someone from way back in Exandria's history. We first learned about him in EXU Calamity when it was revealed that he was the one who broke the barrier the Prime Deities had put in place around the Betrayer Gods, causing the Calamity. He ended up becoming a slave of Asmodeus, but after receiving a touch of redemption from Xerxes, who was Christian Navarro's character, he expressed regret for his actions and managed to break free from his bonds for a short time to help Xerxes. He was then brought back under the thrall of Asmodeus and had served him in the Nine Hells ever since. And I think everybody knows who Liliana is. The matron, having summoned these three figures, calls on Bell's Hells to prove that they will not befall the same fate.
The history of Exandria is altered in the wake of great and terrible people, touched by the will of the gods. Prove to me why you feel you are worthy to be among them.
He's got a shard of a titan. So does she.
He's got something else too, but yeah.
And, yeah, he's been made and remade a few times now. Orm's a protector. I've never met anyone as noble as he is. Even the Wild Mother agrees. Fern, she's a collector. Everybody that sees her gathers to her. And every trinket as well. She has so many people to call upon because we're like moths to a flame around her. Breas. Look at him. He's strong.
Super strong.
He's of two minds. There's a great turmoil going on inside of him. I can see it. And all of us want him to choose the right path, but even if he doesn't, he walks strongly. Dorian has stepped up every single time. He's a prince, something he shies away from. But his entire being shines with it. Laudna's everything. You can see it. She had her fate thrust upon her. It was something she didn't ask for. But she's embraced it and become strong with it and overcome it. Now Chetney's so fucking old and he's seen so much. And he acts like a real jackass. But that's because nothing can break him.
And what of you?
And me, I have a storm inside of me. And I can't wait to let it out.
Whilst this speech was excellent and very heart-touching, it was not quite what the matron had in mind, and as she pulls back from the party, Liliana, Vespin, and Opal turn to the party and prepare to attack. I mean, first can we talk about how freaking gorgeous this map was? I think Matt did such an incredible job of invoking those scenes of the matron's domain from Legend of Vox Machina. It's just stunning. The party trade blows with Liliana, Opal, and Vespin, but they are quite affected by their personal connections to Liliana and Opal. Dorian is furious to see Opal's visage here.
I will not allow another god to make a mockery of you.
And Orm is just sad, saying that he has to believe they aren't real.
I wanted to see you for so long, but this wasn't the way.
This feeling is further intensified after Opal transforms.
And you draw the blade out, and as you draw the blade out, something comes out with it. From the wound, something curved begins to emerge as other...
Oh, no!
And you watch as that smile begins to grow wide, as numerous spider legs begin to pierce out of her body. Her abdomen begins to swell to the back as she transforms into a horrifying spider version.
And she appears to show some semblance of herself.
She blinks and... Where am I? What's going on? And just looks kind of scared. Finishing Opal's turn, Chetney, you're up.
Wait, are they really here?
Fuck if I know.
No,
Shit.
we assume.
However, Chetney doesn't think this is real and slashes at her with his claws. Imogen, though, sways for a moment, believing that it really is her mother.
Imogen. We gotta get out of here. I don't know what's going on, but we gotta get out of here.
Shut up!
Do you trust me?
Yeah.
Okay. Power word stun on you.
Dorian, who floats through the air thanks to a reverse gravity spell from Vespin, floats into Opal's thread of fate and gets a rush of her memories, including a recent one of her in the Hellcatch Valley, sharpening her daggers and preparing to fight at the Malleus Key for her god Lolth. This vision confirms that these champions are not really here. Laudna makes a big play to impress or maybe provoke the matron by summoning the spirit of Imhira.
As the spirit emerges and steps down into the pool, there's a moment where the mask that has been still, like just in a second, shudders. And every single one of these thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of golden threads all shake like a guitar string strummed. The blood of the platform begins to burble up.
Imhira was the matron's mortal avatar during the Downfall series. Finally, Liliana falls to Aram.
So I lower down into blood up to my waist and spring out of it, flying into the air, looking back at Imogen, and then I send shockwaves of energy through her midsection and scream, "Imogen!" on the final attack and land.
And Vespin falls to Chetney.
I'll run up, and as he turns to look at me, I'll stick my clawed hand into his mouth, grab the bottom of his jaw so that the claws dig down through his mandible, and just fucking fruit roll up the front of his face.
As the fight ends, they see that the giant mask in the sky has disappeared and the matron appears before them in a more human form. She says she had to see if they were capable of doing what needs to be done and making the hard choices. She confirms that the Archheart and her have parallel opinions and that she believes that this cycle of destruction with mortals and the gods will continue on and on and on.
While our mortal children are the bastions of change, revolution, and true creation. She reaches up and pulls the mask free. And you just see the face of a pale, sad woman, different from the vision you saw in Aor. I grow tired.
She later confirms that the gods in general want to destroy the Divine Gate so that they can return to Exandria and deal with Predathos directly, regardless of the cost. But all the gods must agree as part of the protection of the gate. If they don't all agree, then the Divine Gate can't be broken. The matron then says that the group can ask their questions. First, Imogen asks if she knew what would happen to her champion, Vax'ildan, but she says she did not, as his fate is a mystery to even her. As her champion, he is outside the threads of fate that she controls. Aram asks if she would follow the Archheart's plan and leave Exandria, but she tells them,
I will not flee.
Even if Predathos is released, you will not flee?
It's exciting when the golden haze of unknowable possibility might include your own.
Breas asks what happens to mortals when they die if she dies, and she says that she assumes Exandria's natural cycle will re-establish itself, that there was a way before the gods arrived, and that this system of the afterlife is a structure put in place by the gods, and without it the soul will find a way as it lasts forever. Fern asks why she wanted to become the god of death.
Books and researchers, historians and philosophers and demagogues and leaders and dissenters and blasphemers will speak of my ambitions to do what had never been done. And maybe that is true to a degree. Some part of me just wanted to see if I could, but I did it with his help, the one who came before. I came to him in his frozen enclave, tried to pry from him the secrets of divinity. We danced through words and conversation for years. Perhaps he saw me a disciple at first, or at least an interesting abnormality. But we came to become friends. And I think ultimately, I think I loved him.
This is such an exciting confirmation of a theory that's been floating around since Downfall, that the matron was chosen by the previous god of death to be his successor. Well, actually, it's been floating around for longer than that, but there was more clues to it in that series. It's so fascinating rewatching some Downfall clips with this knowledge, because Laura confirmed, I think in an interview and also Four-Sided Dive, that only her and Matt knew the backstory of the matron, and so she would have known this information going into Downfall. It gives her portrayal of the old god of death in the prologue a whole new light.
I look at the changes. What is this? Maybe a way was better.
Ashton asks if it was worth it, and the matron says she still doesn't know, later saying that she misses being immortal every day. Orym asks what she knows of Predathos, and she says that the knowledge was kept from her for some time, but she knows that Predathos is bound to the realm where the gods come from. We know this place was called Tengar, and it was depicted in the opening prologue of Downfall, but we don't really have a sense of where or how it exists in the realms. Imogen asks if they were to follow through with the Archheart's plan and become a vessel for Predathos, how do they keep themselves from being torn apart? And she says they have to use the power of love and use that as an anchor. Chetney asks if the matron can lend any help, and she takes off her mask and holds it out, and Brea steps forward to take it.
She takes the mask in her hand and holds it out.
If somebody doesn't step up there.
I'll go.
You reach for it.
Sure.
She pulls it back slightly and leans into you. You are a crossroads. Do you know what a crossroads is?
I do. Yeah, there's a choice ahead.
Maybe this will be the nudge you're looking for. In a moment of need, someone wear it and call. I'll send what I can. I don't know what will make it, depending on where it's used.
Chetney asks how they can save her champion, and she says that they have to remove the beacon first and then destroy the key. She says that the gods are afraid of the beacons because they do not understand them and they change the very nature of the universe. I think her descriptions of the beacons lends a lot more weight to the Kryn dynasty creation story, which honestly I have always chalked up as being more mythological. But I think the more we hear about this cycle of rebirth, that Exandria had before the gods arrived, the more inclined I am to believe that the Luxon truly did come to Exandria before the gods and, put that spark of life into it, just like that Kryn creation story says. I still think that whatever the Luxon is or was is gone. I don't think there's any kind of conscious entity there anymore, now that it's sort of broken up into these beacons, but I think maybe at one point it did have some consciousness. Lastly, Ashton asks if Laudna will be okay.
She holds a hand out and draws her finger this way, and you feel this tug on your chest. And the rest of you can see briefly there's this thread pulling from Laudna's chest. It's silver. Different color than the rest of the golden threads. Her fate lies between realms. Or it did. She moves her hand this way, and the rest of the thread grows golden until it connects with Imogen's. And then it spiders out to the rest of you. And you watch the silver color of the thread begin to fill with more golden light. You are an entity who is a victim of circumstance and cruelty. I do not consider you anathema. Just on a path to righting what has wronged you.
Laudna asks if this means she can be whole again, and the matron says anything is possible. Please, I need Imogen and Laudna to be able to grow old together. Please, please. The matron tells them to go, and they are brought back to life as they exit the pool in the Raven's Crest. Holy moly, that was an extremely lore-heavy episode, and it was really gratifying to hear some critter theories confirmed. I am curious if this revelation changes your opinion of the Matron of Ravens at all. I really love learning more about her, and I am really holding out hope that one day we will get a novel about her mortal life and her ascension. I just think that would make for such an incredible read. It would be so cool, so Critical Role gods, hear me. It's also really cool to get the gods' perspective on the Luxon and how that fits into things. Please tell me all your theories in the comments about the Matron and the Luxon, because I want to do a deep dive into all of them next week. On that note, my next video will be out a couple of days late as I'll be at PAX Australia, but I look forward to catching up with you all when I get back. All right, bye!